Attention, Immortal patrons. Welcome to the July WebDM Immortal Hangout. I am producer Trav. With me, as always, are the badasses. You know them, you love them. The men, the myth, the legends. One Joe Nathan Pruitt and one brother James Davis. And take it away, boys.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction there, Travis.
Fun, right?
I haven't been called Joe Nathan since my church days, so I appreciate you ripping open those old wounds.
It's because there's not an H in it. It's how I remember how to spell your name. John Uthan.
Yeah, me too.
J-O.
You know, I actually had a rebellious time in my youth where I was mad that I didn't have another H in my name because I was like, it's already 8 characters. It could be so much more, and people all assume it anyway. It doesn't matter. These are old wounds. Jim, how are you doing, man?
I mean, what day is it?
I think it's Saturday. I don't know. 4th of July always throws me off because all day Friday I thought it was Monday.
Well, yeah, I'm off all week anyway, just because, that's how I live my life. But, it's been a weird week for that. I'm doing good. I had a good hangout with some IRL people yesterday, socialization and the like, and I feel human. And so, yeah, here we are. It's the summer. It's humid. That's what I don't like. But anyway, I'll complain about that later. It's always humid.
Yeah, it's pretty warm down here in A-Town. I've been trying to acclimate to varying degrees of success.
Oh, yes.
Been going okay till last weekend, and then I got torched on the river. But it was a river, and it was fun.
Oh, yes. The Northeast is crazy humid, Michael, because of the lake. So, yeah, it's no less humid than it is in East Texas. That's how humid it is here.
Yeah.
It's just not 100, whatever. So, but nobody has ceiling fans or indoor AC, so it's still miserable. 6 of one, half dozen the other.
Oh, no, I'm rocking a cool 73 right now. It's pretty nice.
No, it's it is what it is.
And I'm going to apologize for my incessant scratching because I'm in the shedding of skin phase of my summer.
Oh yeah.
I just lathered up. It's fine. It's all fine. But these are our dealing with here.
Yes. But yeah, it's been a while. It's been a hot minute. Like the lead up to D&D Live sucked up a lot of oxygen out of the WebDM room, right? It was one of those things where we had a project that got canceled right before that. Or not canceled, but put on indefinite hiatus. And in hindsight, I'm kind of glad for it. Excuse me while I move my mic. But in hindsight, I'm a little glad for it because, that lead up to D&D Live was like, I would have been surely rubbish on any kind of project, writing or otherwise. So yeah, it's been a while, but we're glad to be back. And how are you doing? All right? Yeah. How's everybody else out there? How are y'all doing out there? Immortal demons. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Like, what is even happening?
I don't know. I mean, I do like that. It's the first thing I spat out when we were like, "Hey, what should we call them?" And I'm like,
right.
I mean, I'd hate to demonize our patrons, but
sure,
it's the day and age for that sort of thing. You got to go ahead and embrace it. Like Tyrion says, wear it like armor, so it can't be used against you for a second satanic panic.
Absolutely. Hey, Chrome, how's it going? Remember, guys, if you guys have questions for us, just want to chat, ask us something, anything really, it doesn't have to, it's whatever. Type the big, question in all caps, so that we can see it and get to it. But Pruitt was telling us about these 3D6 tables he's been making, that you've been going nuts with. You said, yeah.
I've been doing, I did. In fact, today, I think I wrote 3 pages worth of notes like in the last 2 hours. So I'm working on like 3 different pages here for my current Tuesday game, Breath of the Fall. And just after we talked about them, I've been writing notes. Like I got a couple pages of notes here. in my little campaign book, and I've just kind of consolidated those into three types of encounters, whether it's with sentient beings, just straight up environmental encounters, or technological encounters. And so, I figured those are three nice broad subjects, and so I'm going to do a 3 to 18 table on each of those, and then do specific nested tables for whichever ones that seem fitting.
Oh yeah.
And so this is what I do. I've had a bit of a creative block recently, just because I haven't. It's one of those. I'll say this, and this is a digression. The way we created Breath of the Fall in the game itself, where the players built so much of the NPCs and what's going on in the drama, and I just kind of had the skeleton of the history of the world around them. It really, I didn't have to do anything. It was so weird. I didn't know how to handle it, where I'm just like, I don't have any prep because the inciting incident happened. They reacted to it. Now they know what they're doing. They already know the problems. I've already seeded the problems in between that they wanted. And I'm just like, I'm doing nothing.
Well, and also to me, it really highlights how much work goes into just creating a bunch of shit that you hope someone likes. You know, maybe it works for every game, maybe it doesn't, but I think having that collaborative session zero where you just sort of all right, guys, what do your characters care about, and what do you want to do as players? And then the secret is that you then mix in your own stuff, so it's a surprise to them too. So so much work goes into just gosh, I hope they go here, or I hope they do this thing. I've been really diving into hex crawls lately and looking and seeing, because they're a mode of play that, and I don't just mean wilderness exploration, but an actual, we have a hex map out in front of us. We are moving around it using the procedures of play, of our preferred game, and just sort of looking at them, and they're a subject that a lot of DMs online talk about, and especially the OSR kind of old school scene. But in play, it takes, I don't know, it's one of those things where I've yet to really have one that was super satisfying. I've had ones where they do hex crawls where it's okay, this works, it abstracts travel for us in a satisfying way, but not necessarily ones where it's combines all of the, I don't know, what do you call it, the drama of what you want out of the journey, right? With the utility of a hex crawl. So a lot of what I've been reading about is people who are that's because you made a 3,000 hex crawl. It's a howling emptiness. There's nothing there. Whereas the ones that do really well, they usually keep it to around 20 to 30, and they're jam packed full of stuff. And so I don't know. That's where my head's been at lately. But yeah, any tool that you can use. For you.
Yeah. That's why I just want to go with the 3d6 chart, because that way it's just wherever they are, whenever I get an intrusion, guess what? I'm going to have it ready to go. Just roll on it. It's all right, this is what pops up. This is what you see,
Sure.
Because they have their broad mission. So anything other than that is just dressing on the cake. And it's just a little bit ways to disseminate a little bit more story, a little bit more history, things like that.
Sure.
And so, I think I'm working on a nice broad approach. Anyway,
I feel it. That's that, and it's a cool use of the Cypher, having a 3d6 table for your GM interruptions, and it's they're sort of categorized by monster threat or technological mishap or something like that.
Yeah, and I also, I have an intrusions deck that's I've been using. That's awesome, but what I like is, I've been having to think all right, well, how would I fit this in my world? And by creating this thing, even if I don't roll on it, I can just be okay, and look up, and I can pick something from my chart and then go to one of the nested tables and roll on it, and then give it a little bit more, pizzazz, a little bit more flair to it.
What's really cool is when you take all those techniques and you develop something that you roll on and use as you play. And so you're literally I don't really know. You walk through the store, you talk to this person, whatever. All right, roll my die. All right, this is what, and then it takes I don't know, for me, it's got to be like an in the zone sort of moment. Sometimes you're on it and sometimes you're not. But when it works, it's really cool because it's all just shit. You open the store, all right, roll up a table. All right, it's this room. This is what's in it. There are a couple of dungeons that I've got. Gardens of Yin is one, and it's like it's a procedure where you explore like an extraplanar garden, right? Like a 19th century sort of like English country garden, like with a hedge maze and all that other kind of stuff. And it's like got random locations, and the farther you go in it, the lower, like the higher your result is going to be on the table. So like the first few entries are rather mundane. It's like it's a stone bench or an old fountain or something like that. But it eventually gets more and more surreal the further in you go. But every time, but you're still rolling randomly up for both room contents and what the room actually is. And then whenever you leave the place, you just throw it all away. And every time you visit, it is a randomly procedurally generated excursion. And the person that does this has like one for like the Gardens of Yin. They've got Stygian Library for exploring like planar libraries and shit. And so it's really cool. I love a good just procedural tool for it. But I don't know. I'm gonna check chat. I haven't looked at chat.
Well, I was just looking at it. Austin F is our first question. Pruitt, could you possibly give some info on your current posters on the wall? Yeah, sure. So over here, that's a 3-part of the Dawn Rose from my Starward Bound campaign. That's the original art of the back profile and kind of 3/4. On my left shoulder is my sword poster. I got that at a concert here in Austin, I believe. And then we're going to come over here, and up here you can see Mirror Mirror, which is a Mondo poster. And I got a nice little Metropolis Mondo poster back there. And then over there, it's got my Bad Seed poster that's covered up by the door right now. But other than that, all my other cool posters are in the other room.
Yeah.
But, I like posters. They're cool.
Sure.
Ow! Oh, I forgot I had my headphones on. Never mind.
Oh, no, yeah. But yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know. I feel like I haven't had posters up on my wall in so long. And I think like the last time I did, the cats just like decided they were going to climb up between the wall and the poster and ruin them all. Like all those Alex Ross Justice League ones that like half, like some of the ones I got from Travis, some of the ones I got for myself, like almost all of those at one point or another, a cat was between it and the wall freaking out. So there you go.
Yeah, luckily my cats leave my posters alone.
You wire some posters.
Yeah, I don't know. I like adding some flair. And then of course, I have over here the blue side of my green screen. That's my above bed poster because that's the only place to store it without having to actually store it. So yes,
There you go.
if you have any other questions, go ahead and throw them in chat.
What are you guys up to in your gaming as well? I'm curious about that.
Oh, totally.
I like to hear about that, but I don't know. I
had a fun session of Dread yesterday. It was pretty badass. Well, I had gotten captured because we were in a facility that we blew up and it was collapsing. Typical cavern facility making cyborgs trying to take over we're doing basically the robot wars, and rescued the incompetent yet up-jumped Captain Denny, who's the completely incompetent judge that went to a weekend camp, and he's only been a judge for like 3 weeks, but he's already the captain by some freak of politics. And so, of course, my character hates him, but he's technically his boss, and there's no evidence against him other than his own idiocy. And so, yeah, I just did the thing that in the moment, as the cavern was collapsing, I threw Denny. I mean, he only weighs 90 pounds in his full gear anyway. And so I just threw him ahead, and I got caught. And turns out the judge that's heading up the whole thing, his name is Womack, and he's my father. I got to play that out. I was raised by cyborg clones. Yeah. It's completely jumped off the rails, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's such a fun game, and I get to wear my judge helmet. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. Has the system like picked up any? Have you like, or are you able to like?
You know, it's whatever. You know, I don't want to. It's just really, really crunchy, and it's crunchy in a way that's just like there's just so many different reference points from different things that affect your character.
Sure.
That like a beginning level character reminds me of like a Pathfinder character where you got like all these different modifiers and synergies and all this different stuff, and I don't know if it's just a habit of I've played so many different systems now, where it's like the more systems I play, like I'm less attracted to that.
Sure. The real crunchy sort of.
But I mean, I'm on my third. I had to go on my third character audit, and I finally got my character right. I think because of all the different little rules that change because I got this, then this is affected, and then this is affected, and like, you know, each year of your judgeship or each year of your career affects like 3 different things or 4 different things, and I don't know.
Yeah, but it's also like, what is it? The Modifius systems have a similar sort of feel to them when you're making a character, at least, right? Like you've got class and background and where you're from, and probably like several different modifiers to those. But in play, it never feels cumbersome. It
doesn't. Here it kind of does, because each different thing interacts differently. So, yeah. But I mean, the ultimate upside is I finally have this, and
there you go. Well, there you go. Oh my god. So, all right, Robot Rebellion. I'm trying to think of what gaming. Like we didn't get to. It's been like too long since we played the usual Thursday game. So we took like 2 weeks off. So that always puts a weird kind of damper on everything. But it's good because the last time we played, I got some really good feedback. It was one of those sessions where you're kind of like, all right, I think this is how I'm going to run things. I think this is how I'm going to run like this, part of the campaign, whatever,
Yeah.
And you give yourself, you start building the tools that you need for it. You start preparing, and sort of like, all right, what am I going to do? What are some of the encounters I want here? What are some of the villains? All that other good stuff. And then run a session of it and realize that's not going to work for this campaign. And it was actually like, it was weird because like in the lead up to the session, I would realize I was like, I'm kind of stressed out. Like, why? And it's not common. Everybody gets nervous before they DM or play, or a lot of people do at least. It wasn't until after I was like, I know I was nervous. It's because I was spending all of my time preparing for a different campaign. And to me, it's one of those things where it's like, I still, because most of my GMing experience is offline, I still prep. I'm supposed to spend a lot of time like prepping for my games, like my online games, as if they're offline games.
Yeah. Right.
Like if they're going to take longer, they're going to do whatever. And then realizing that like, that just doesn't necessarily work for this style of play. So that's mostly what I've been up to. And I think it'd be good. It'd be really much better.
I think you should follow your gut, Jim Davis.
Sure.
Follow your heart.
Yeah, that sounds right. I don't usually talk to cops, but that's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna have to take this off.
You're not sweating.
Well, no, not quite yet. It was starting to get warm, but no, I didn't have my glasses on, so I couldn't read anything. Let's see here. Do we have any further questions?
We got questions. But so yeah, I've been redesigning what I had. I'm gonna keep the prep that I did for the other game because there's useful stuff in there. But it's just there's a difference between like we were playing on a streamed game of 5th edition D&D where it's like 3 hours and there's sort of a reason why there's an audience versus a more fast-paced kind of game that you play like at the table, in which case you can do a whole bunch of shit in 4 or 5 hours. Anyway, I'll just keep rambling for that.
Oh, it's all right. We're all here to ramble.
That's fine. As usual, by this time in the week, I could tip my head sideways and my brain will pour out. So that's just how it's going to roll.
Let's see here. We got another question. Have either of you know of or been in games where dying and making a new character is basically the point, i.e., games with built-in narrative as to why you keep playing as the replacement heroes?
Yeah. Yes. That's the entire point of Paranoia. If you've ever played that, Paranoia is a post-apocalyptic game in which you play basically like Fallout survivors. You're in a giant bunker, but the bunker's run by the computer, and the computer has your DNA and cloning facilities, and it doesn't matter what happens to you; it'll just make another copy of you and send you out. And the computer actively pits agents against each other and all that good stuff. So yeah, Paranoia is that's really the only one I can think of off the top of my head in which dying a lot and having quick replacement characters with an in-game justification is part of it.
I mean, the only one I think of is just that old dungeon crawl where we had like 4 characters prepared.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was White Mountain or
White Mountain. Which was that one of the ones I ran, or was it?
It was one of the ones you ran. It was the one where Aegon II was the final character that actually made it.
Oh yeah. We were playing like Labyrinth Lord, and so that's a derivative of basic D&D. I forget which version of basic, but yeah, and it also takes like all of 2 minutes to make a new character. Like roll up 3d6, pick a class, like that's it. You don't you don't really do anything else other than that. You can jump right back in. So yeah, but I don't know that I didn't have like an in-world justification for it. I was just like, hey, you guys are probably going to die a lot. You should have other characters, as well as some reasons why they might just suddenly jump in. But you could easily do it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious. Like, is that a game? Are you Austin? Are you like playing a game like that, or are you just sort of like thinking about the concept of it? Because Paranoia could be really fun. It's like you're actively trying to screw over other players. You're being pitted against each other. It sort of like breaks all the rules of what you're not supposed to do in an RPG, right? PvP, keeping secrets from each other, actively trying to screw each other over, kind of thing. But that's sort of the point of the game, is that you're all manipulated clones living in a post-apocalyptic hell world.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw Tedidius has a question here. Remember, folks, to type question in caps before your question, so because kind of sifting through the chat, sometimes it's hard to read. But he's thinking about making a campaign in the Borderlands universe and maybe using Call of Cthulhu to run because of the sanity mechanics. Should he use Call of Cthulhu, or is there a better system? I would say maybe look at Pulp Cthulhu, because those characters are a little bit hardier. And they're meant to be like more action oriented, whereas Call of Cthulhu, you're meant to be like a normal person, and so you're pretty squishy, and you can die really like one really good gunshot can kill some characters like right off the bat. Whereas Pulp Cthulhu, it's pretty much you have like double hit points. There's a couple of mechanics differently, but you still have like a sanity mechanic.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say if that's what you're already going for, and if you know Call of Cthulhu, it's just a few different things.
Yeah, the other thing you can do is like Call of Cthulhu's sanity mechanic is super easy to port into nearly any other RPG. Its monsters have a certain, monsters, seeing one of them has a certain impact on your sanity score. Certain spells do the same thing.
Yeah.
You have whatever it is at the start, and then it just sort of ticks down. And then, if I recall, you don't there's some mechanics that are associated with the disorders, but it's like mostly it's just role-playing suggestions and sort of like limitations on what you can and can't do.
Yeah, I mean,
like when you go insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's whether it's a temporary insanity or permanent, because temporaries can just be kind of like obsessions about things, like you see blood on your hands, and for the next 1d3 days, blah blah blah. But you could also get something permanent, and it's also the amount of sanity you lose per time. It's one of those things where it can get kind of nuts. If you were to like port it over to say D&D, you'd start to have some very interesting conditions, I think, especially once you get to permanent. Because because now you're going to start talking about like negative ribbon abilities and things like that. I mean, I don't know, that could be fun.
Yeah, I like that. And then there's always that sort of like, well, when it gets to the bottom, it's you hand over your character sheet. You're a cultist now. You're an enemy.
Yeah, you're crazy. You're cannibal.
The thing that I like about insanity mechanics is like having abilities and powers that only unlock when you get really low insanity, or sorry, really low sanity.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's just like, I guess in Cthulhu it'd be like anything like say 15 or less, where you start, I don't know, maybe seeing things or experiencing visions of something, or get magic, or whatever. There's a. Did you ever play Bloodborne?
No, I have not.
Okay. There's a really cool. One of the cool things about that is like there's some enemies that you can only meet after one of your. You can only see after one of your stats, like your insight or cosmic eye or whatever it's called, gets above a certain rating. But they'll still attack you and affect you. And so you'd be like walking across a zone and just get picked up and ripped in half and thrown across 3 blocks. And you're like, what the fuck was that? Like,
you're not crazy enough to see it.
You're not crazy enough to see it yet. You're not. You haven't tuned in with whatever insane shit's going on in this gothic hellhole. So yeah, I mean, pick it up. Use whatever action RPG you'd want, and then maybe just keep Call of Cthulhu in mind and port it, or check out Pulp Cthulhu. Maybe is Octoon Cthulhu a part of Pulp Cthulhu?
No, it's a little bit different system, and it works way differently.
Oh yeah,
and also it's not like that was like we were still in the beta when we were doing it.
Okay.
Like it hasn't been released yet. But you can get I do think that they have the beta rules for free. So if you want to go check it out, it was fun. I had a lot of fun playing it. It was very interesting. I think it's what caused my inverse luck. I confused my dice because you're going for ones.
Sure.
Then you go over and play other games, and it's just like my luck's like I don't even know you anymore. I give you 20s, and you're
Yep. That's just what happens when you play a Modifius game. Excuse me. So Michael's got. Have y'all played RuneQuest, Glorantha at all since the playtest? Not since the playtest, although I have done some reading up on it. Particularly, there's a webcomic, The Prince of Sartar, I think is what it's called. That's really cool, and it really for me captures the feel of this Bronze Age kind of setting. I'm not sure if I would play in Glorantha. I like stealing ideas from it. I like reading it and sort of being inspired by it. But like a lot of pre-made settings, I go like, well, I want to take these ideas and do something, use them in another place. And so if I was doing it, I would run like a proper, the sea peoples are at the Nile Delta. We're going to use our own Bronze Age and just make it magical for something like that. The Mediterranean is flooded, or Strait of Gibraltar gets broken into, or I don't know, whatever.
Oh, Jim, there's no hope for you. You're a terminal home brewer. That's the name of your microbrewery, is Terminal Home Brewery.
Yeah, I do. Usually, I like I like taking the ideas and usually just like the way they're implemented in someone else's game or setting or whatever is like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's enough to inspire me and get me going, but I rarely want to just accept what they've done whole cloth. About the only pre-published setting I run in is the Old World Warhammer, and I have changed a lot of things about it. So Terminal Homebrew. Yes, Epic Bronze Age Epic would be really fun. Like the Hittites. What if iron is like, it's not just iron, but you wielding it, changes you, or like unlocks something. People used to believe that metals had alchemical and magical properties. Gold and silver, were magical, right? So iron,
they last forever,
right? No area, everybody else is running around with bronze, and then these motherfuckers show up with some gray ass metal weapons that can that are lighter and sharper and stronger and
through our shields.
The transition from bronze to iron wasn't immediate. There's a lot of overlap. But you could do some really cool stuff with that. So yeah, I like the system. I love the way Magic works. I just Glorantha's. I'm just gonna do my own thing.
Yeah, and I haven't played it either. I'm
Good.
sorry. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of games out there.
I'd love to. No, I would play in it. That's the other thing. There's a lot of settings I'd play in before.
Yeah, I would love to play it again.
Sure,
it was a lot of fun.
Actually, fight a dragon.
Yeah, can we fight a dragon this time? Do we have to talk to it? I don't know. I'm just saying it'd be fun. Austin F has a question here. Do either of you pick up Matt Colville's Strongholds and Followers? Yeah.
I have it. Yeah. I like the battle system in the back of it, and that's what I spent the most time using it for. I like some of the ideas in it. It's written in a way that it makes it's difficult for me to sort of like get into. It's very informal, very much in Matt's voice, right? It's super casual, and so like I was reading through the monsters, and there's like one entry that's like, this ability could last X amount of time or Y amount of time, and it's just like, I don't know. Why are you listening to me about it? And I was like, I don't know, Matt, but we bought your book. I can always change the duration on any ability in the monster manual. I want to know what you think it should be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's things like that, right? You know.
Buying a book from someone is an unspoken, it's in fact written contract that I want your opinions on these things.
I like a lot of things. I like a lot of the ideas in it, especially in the like the back of the book, the appendices. So the battle system, the various monsters are really cool. I haven't yet really dove into the Strongholds and Followers, like that part. I read
the title covers,
but like the part where it's actually like, here's what the strongholds are and how you benefit from them. But something like the idea of an extended rest, right? That you have to spend a week somewhere doing something, and that is really cool because it's a built-in sort of like pacemaker for your campaign. 5th edition has this, to me, it has this big thing. Like if you're trying to play in a world that's a living, breathing place, and you want to inhabit it as much as possible, then like going from levels 1 to the teens over the course of a summer, it's kind of weird. It just is it's incongruous. Like, why isn't everybody doing this in the world filled with high level people? Or it's just sort of like, I don't care for it. So I like anything that sort of slows the game down a little and says like, no, these things take time, or you got to like spend some time at this place to sort of get to know people and do your thing. But it basically gives everybody a lair action. They get to choice between it. Some of the stuff's really cool, like a monk's lair. Everybody within like a 6-mile radius is like perfect, no disease, no illness. It sort of like gives beneficial effects to the people around it. So like if you're a paladin, people get something. If you're a wizard, people are going to get something. And then it gives you special abilities that are pretty powerful, but require you to take a week in your keep or your lair or whatever to refresh them. I just don't, the specifics of them I don't really know. I couldn't talk about the balance or how useful they'd be. That's just kind of the whatever. The followers, I don't know how they work. He's got some, it's a system, but I kind of skip past that because I usually hand wave a lot of that stuff in my games.
Yeah.
I like it though. It's good.
Yeah, I mean,
curious about what comes out next, right? Like, there's a whole other books are coming out, so I'm curious how he'll build on what he's got going on.
So Adcon 00. So what kind of urban fantasy and other modern RPG stuff have you done? Any D20 modern or past gaming? I remember in one of my games, I tried and failed a thing where it was like it was basically an inverse of D&D the cartoon. Y'all were D&D characters that I wanted to. It was when D&D Modern came out, D20 Modern came out, and I wanted to porch all over.
Yeah,
and it did not go over well. I just remember that. Like everybody was just kind of like taken off guard, and we're just like, a couple people came up to me in private and felt hoodwinked because they had an idea for a character. Now they couldn't do that, and I'm like, well, no.
Okay, yeah.
And I had like stuff planned for all that. They just kind of like just
everybody's just kind of like
deflated. Yeah, and I was like, all right, whatever.
But that's usually my experience with like sort of a not going to tell the players about this big kind of thing. I've run some cyberpunk sort of mini campaigns, usually in worlds of my own, no particular system or setting or anything. I've played some Shadowrun, but like D20 Modern, I don't even remember playing any of those games of D20 Modern. I thought some of the ideas were cool in them, but I don't know. Like, let's see, what do we have for? I'm rereading the question real quick. I'm a big think out loud mood today, guys. What kinds of urban fantasy and other modern RPG stuff have you done? Any D20 Modern past? I think the biggest ones that I've done are the White Wolf games.
Yeah.
The Vampire, Mage, and Hunter are the three I'm most familiar with from back in the 90s. And I like it. I think some of the problems that you might run into would be the same that you would run into in like a high fantasy style game, where it's like, what do you do about cell phones? Like, is everybody just going to have everything they could potentially have at their fingertips there? And if yes, then just account for that. And if not, having a plausible in-game or in-setting justification would be pretty good. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like,
I would say with regards to urban fantasy, you did run that one Eberron campaign that was a lot of fun. That was
sure, yeah, I've done some. Yeah,
I would call that definitely urban fantasy.
Yeah,
a little bit higher, a little bit advanced than the typical D&D setting.
Yeah,
but it let me play a gunslinger, and that's all I cared about. Quite honestly,
there are so many different tools for running urban campaigns honestly, what I would do is sort of like Google and see what there is. A lot of them run the gamut from just like tables and the like to using what are called either dice maps or die drop generators, where you take a handful of dice, drop it on a piece of paper, and that will tell you what is going on. So an example of this might be, all right, take a handful of D6s, and anywhere that they land on the paper, circle them and note the number next to them. And then you would look the number up on a chart, and the number will tell you what kind of building, what style of building, maybe what shape it's in, or something like that, some detail about the building. And then you use this over 2 or 3 passes to create, say, a city map that's more random than just the way you would. Or if you just need to do it like, shit, I didn't prep for this neighborhood. I thought they were going to go down to Butcher's Row and get those Ankh eggs processed like they said they were, but instead they went to the Priest's Quarter, and I haven't gotten to that yet. So it gives you a tool that you can use super quick for that kind of thing. The other is if you can pick up the Judges Guild or Necromancer Games version of City State of the Overlord, of the Invincible Overlord. It's just a really cool, like, in-depth, exhaustively detailed city supplement. And if you just need, you can always reskin things for it. You can always use bits and pieces for it. But if you just need like a book of pre-made stuff for an urban thing, and this is a fantasy, but it can be used for, say, like a modern fantasy kind of thing or whatever. It's got like, I don't know, a dozen sword shops with fully fleshed out NPCs and secrets and all kinds of things. It's like exhaustively detailed, and you can get lost in it. You run an entire campaign just walking from neighborhood to neighborhood and rolling on the random tables. So yeah, that's what I would do, is to look and see what tools there are online, because there's so many of them for running an urban campaign, and then sift through and see which ones might work for you and which ones don't. Keep in mind that a lot of them are designed to be used at the table for improv style GMing. That can slow down play if you're not used to, say, rolling a bunch of dice and looking things up on a table really quickly and then like synthesizing it and making it. You can always use those tools ahead of time and just like roll up this week's 6 encounters or whatever, and work through them in whatever order you want or randomly. So there's a lot of different ways you can take those tools and use them. Big ones I would use are like an assignment generator, things for the players to do if they're just like stumped as to what kind of adventure they can have. Anyway.
All right. So Booker Prime has a question here. I have a starting adventure for my new campaign starting next month. but I need a few other interesting bad guy options for later on. My players want madcap adventures for tier 1 that morphs into big fan quest around tiers 2 to 3. Could be any awesome bad guy from any media. I love adapting stuff for D&D. Well, okay, right off the bat, an interesting bad guy option would be a Warlock trying to bring about something, and for his final thing to even happen, he needs to die. So he helps the players along their quest, tracking his actions, getting them ready to be the ones to kill him. So you can have a nice big bait and switch where it's just like, no, I needed you this powerful in order for this to happen. And you have to do it. I've murdered all these people. Aren't you going to be good people? And so then it puts the moral quandary on them, like killing him or whatever will set off the thing. But I mean, it would be justice. But maybe he's a reluctant warlock. Maybe this was impressed upon him by his patron. And maybe he can be talked out of it. Who knows? Depends if he slips up along the way. But that's just off the top of the dome. Jim, you got any?
I mean, I like something where it's like, yeah, an ally becomes an enemy, or like the natural or expected like actions that you take as PCs are actually, setting up this other bad guy for success.
Yeah.
So it could be that like the initial enemies are the enemies of the big bad, and the big bad is manipulating the players into taking out their rivals.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or if you're dealing with like a big organization of some kind, then maybe instead of it being like this monolithic, everybody's a part of the same thing, it's a bunch of like cells or sort of modular groups that are like contracted out. So kind of thinking like, say, the first season of Daredevil is probably a good example of that, where it's like the Russians and the whoever else and the people making heroin, and they all kind of are like in this big super group with Kingpin at the top, but they're also separated. And so you can sort of introduce a larger organization that way, where it's like, oh, you guys have just been fighting their like expeditionary force, or you guys have been fighting the mercenaries that they hired to to quiet down troublemakers, and now you're going after like their real guards, so that you have a way of justifying the fact that maybe your bad guys suddenly got more powerful, even though they've been present since the beginning, or something like that. That makes sense. But yeah, I like that. Like something that changes and evolves over the course of the campaign, and like an ally becoming an enemy, or someone manipulating the parties. I really like that. It's pretty cool. Let's see. All right. Oh, Pruitt left. He had to go. All right, let's see. He had a bio. All right. That's all right. We're buying as well. Have we checked out the current 5th edition Humble Bundle? And if so, is there anything in there that you should check out first? I did not know that there was a new Humble Bundle for 5th edition out, actually. So, yeah, I'm looking right now on Humble Bundle, and is this the beast of a bundle that you're talking about, Ted Diaz? Let's see. I'm looking at it. I don't know that I recognize any of this stuff right now. Encephalon Gorgers of the Moon. That's really cool. Let's see. Yeah, the Beast of a Bundle. So question, Pruitt, is there's a Humble Bundle, the Beast of a Bundle that is out. It's a lot of stuff for 5th edition. But it's so somebody's asking if it's worth anything, or if there's maybe anything to get. And I just don't recognize. There's lots of like Frog God, or other stuff. Let me see.
Well, I mean,
Jewel Forest is there. Okay. I don't know. Some of the stuff in the second tier here is pretty cool. Rappanathic, if you just need a dungeon, then Rappanathic is a good just go to. Midgard Sagas, I'm not sure about that, but most things for Midgard are like really cool. It's a nice like dark fantasy kind kind of place. A lot of messed up stuff going on. I'm actually playing my first game of it here in a few weeks.
Good God.
Midderlands. I don't know. Midderlands is really cool. I backed that Kickstarter because I really liked both the cartography, and it's like basically somebody took England and fantasied it up and scrubbed all the specific names off of it, but it's still very much like English, if you catch my meaning. It's not like generic fantasy. It's like as English as you could get in sort of like, there's boggers down by the marsh of whatever. Yeah, anyway. Try to. So, I don't know. Like, Purple Fly. Listen, like, there's some of this stuff in here that that is probably going to be useful, but most of it I do not immediately recognize. So yeah, that's the Humble Bundle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When I look at these things, the fact that the top tier is $15 or more.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So for $15, I'm sure there's $15 worth of material if you paid $15 for all of it. Right?
Oh yeah. Certainly, there's certainly $15 worth of material for it.
I mean, there's a hell of a lot more than that. I mean, I'm already looking at like just on first glance, I want to know what Whispers in the Crags is, because that art alone is it's in the $15 section.
Sure, yeah. The hazardous habitats are probably pretty fun. You know, just they give you probably like encounters and stuff to use on the road. The Tome of Horrors as a bestiary, if you don't have another third-party bestiary, it's a pretty good one. It's pretty, like, it leans towards like Fiend Folio type monsters, if you're familiar with that book. But yeah, it's pretty good too.
All right. I'm gonna buy it.
All right. Well, you convinced Pruitt. There we go.
There you go.
All right. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, all right. Here we go. Michael's got some good questions for us. What level of success do you feel WebDM is at versus where you hoped it would be at this point? Yeah, I think that's a good one, because, like, for me, this is something that I have struggled with, because my perceptions of what I think should be, and that's a loaded word for me, should, are one thing. And when I compare ourselves to, say, the entire field of online content creators in role-playing games, I see sort of another thing. I am satisfied with our level of success, but I am also want more. You know, I want it to keep going. I want it to be something that lasts for as long as it can go.
Yeah.
This is the first thing in my life that I have, like, created and sort of been a part of that tapped into, you know, whatever kind of self-motivators I have. Most careers I've been in, it's been like, all right, I'll show up, but I'm not here for anything other than the paycheck. You know, like I'm not, you know, I don't usually get on board with whatever, you know, I'm not on board, just pay me. And this is something different. You know, it's something that, you know, that we've made together. And so, I don't know, you know, I had hoped that, I don't, you know, there's some things I'd hoped for, but they also are, like, kind of unrealistic. You know, it would be nice to say, be on a big stage. You know, it would be nice to get, you know, a bit more, say, a recognition from those content creators, platforms, and, like, who are, say, above us. But I don't have any major complaints or, like, you know, like, oh yeah, this should have been this way or something like that. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, no, I mean, I agree for the most part. I really want us to really get into publishing. I think that, like, making classes, making rules, making supplements and stuff like that is right up our alley. Another way to kind of use that. And so that's the, like, other than that, like, I love where we are.
Sure. Yeah.
It's unexpected, but hey,
it's I was trying to think, like, you know, when we first started WebDM, you know, you know, at least for me, my goal, you know, what I expected out of it and what I wanted out of it were very, you know, low stakes. You know, let's have some good videos. Let's get some people thinking. Let's get some people talking. Let's share some of our ideas, and you know, and then maybe if we get a couple of thousand people following us, that'll be fun. Or maybe if we can, go to a convention and people, or care at all that we're there, that'll be satisfying. And sort of like in that sense, WebDM has blown so far past my expectations for it that I'm beyond satisfied at the level of success we've had.
Oh yeah, especially I completely agree. Especially kind of naturally dovetailing into his next question about the invitation to the Descent event.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that was freaking huge, and I think a big part of it is us on D&D Beyond's channel and like doing the Todd Talks and all that. But I mean, I think it's because we were on there, and when we were on there, I mean, we were pulling 3-4 times their regular viewership. And
sure.
At that point, it's like, I think move on up.
Yeah, I think it's that. I also think it's just sort of like making the decision last year, or because it was more like late 2017, to be like, all right, we're on YouTube, but like we need to be on our social media platforms. We had a Facebook group, we had Twitter, we had Instagram, we created all those things, but we weren't really on them, and we weren't really part of a larger kind of thing. And I think that the last year and then into this year of saying like, all right, we are going to pick a social media platform, in this case Twitter, where most of our efforts are directed, and build and sort of like have that be a supplement to the reputation that we sort of build up on YouTube. As like people can ask us questions. Most of the time it's Emma answering them, but sometimes it's one of us. And I think it does a lot sort of like in the day-to-day to keep us on people's radar, to make sure that people remember we're out there. And then we drop a video or something, or do an interview when we release it, for everybody, and kind of like make sure that, that people know. I'll say this, it just occurred to me, like, it's not necessarily D&D related, but when we hear that Monty Cook is talking about WebDM, and it's that we are the subject of their conversations, and that they really love us, and that they sort of trust our instincts on D&D, that is a level of success that I can't deny. That's someone whose games I've been playing all my life.
Yeah.
I find myself in kind of a reverse situation of that's kind of cool.
And them asking us to write the intro to the entrance. I mean, it's a freaking It's definitely
something
unlocked. And I don't think we're anywhere near done unlocking achievements, and that's good because we always have to have a goal, and we always need the next thing to strive for.
And as far as whether I was surprised, I think for me, I wasn't surprised because it was like, do they even know about us or whatever. I think I was taken off guard. Like I was sort of expecting that we would eventually get one of these invitations at some point. I figured at some point this will happen. I think I was expecting it to come much sooner, but that probably speaks more to the number of people that Dungeons and Dragons as a corporate entity has at their disposal to, do things with. But at the same time, it's like it was really cool to be there and to there were other YouTube channels there, but it wasn't nearly like it was mostly podcasters and streamers alike. So
podcasts, live plays, things like that.
Yeah. So yes, those good questions. Let's see.
What do we got?
We're ever in the Southeast. I don't know. Booker, what kind of cons are out there in the Southeast? I know there's one in Atlanta that's really big. That's a Dragon Con, maybe?
Yeah. We got invited to one that was in Atlanta. It was like an anime con, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I go to an anime convention. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Florida's tough because of the humidity, but I don't mind.
Speaking of another con here in the chat, AdCon 00 has a question. Have either of you tried Castles and Crusaders or other siege engine games like Amazing Adventures?
Yeah, I have. And I really like the siege engine. I like the way it sort of gives you two ways to express your character's competency and their abilities. You can have either a prime, like one of my attributes is a prime attribute, therefore the DC is lower for those tasks, or it's just like this is or I just put a high stat in it because I want a high stat in it. DC is still going to be the same, but I'm just sort of good at it. So I like the way that you can do both of those things. You can play a strong person without needing to put a high value in your strength because of it. And it's like one of the first retro clones in a way. And so I really like it. My problem with Castles and Crusades was it took them forever to come out with the Castle Keeper's Guide. And by the time they did, I had moved on to other retro clones and haven't really kept up yet with Castles and Crusades. And I didn't even know there was a thing called Amazing Adventures. So I might have to check that out because I like the Siege engine. But yeah, I was doing other things. Have you ever played it?
No, I have not. Other than we played Sword and Sorcery.
Yeah, we played Sword and Sorcery, Labyrinth Lord, and so.
I don't think I've played Castles and Crusaders.
No, I've used the mechanic though, right? Like, so if you, for those of you out there who are familiar with the Siege engine, you pick it's like D&D, right? You roll your stats, and based on the player race that you pick, you might have one that's sort of considered a prime stat or something. So if you play like a dwarf or an elf, then you're like I'm an elf fighter, let's say, then your 2 prime stats are probably going to be dexterity and strength, right? Because you're a fighter and you're an elf. Or if it's dwarf, it might be strength and constitution. So that means that those 2 stats, your DC for them is going to be lower. I believe, and I could be fuzzy, but like prime stats have a DC of 11, and then non-prime stats have a DC of 18. And there's no skill system. You just sort of roll your abilities against various things. If you want to be really good at something, you put a high stat in a prime ability so that it's like, not only do I have a low DC, but I have a big modifier to get over it. Or you could say put an average stat in a prime ability, and it's like, yeah, I don't have a great modifier, but my DC for it's really low, so I'm still going to pass more often. And so I like the elegance of that. I just never really had a chance to play. And then humans get 3 prime stats. They get a floating one that they can. So that's I like the elegance of it, but never really had a chance to play. Let's see where we got. Austin
F. He's got a question for you, Jim. Have you ever incorporated historical battles or events into your games, i.e., set them up for
Alicia or Vienna?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes. So Vienna especially. I set up at the end of my 4th edition game. I had basically the PCs were the Polish. They were the winged hussars coming to rescue the Austrians. In this case, the Turks were an army of undead commanded by Julius Caesar, who was at that. I was just like, he's just Julius Caesar. The guy's Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was a vampire, right? Like if Caesar had been bitten by like a Black Court Dresden vampire, and so the commander of the army would fought under this giant velvet tent, right? So if you know anything, Caesar is a front of the line battle commander. He's not one of the back of the third rank guys. He leads by example. I should qualify that. That is what he told us he did in the books he wrote about himself for people in Rome to listen to. But there's a lot of historical reasons why you can at least read them and expect them to be somewhat true. So I've done it like that. I sort of like modeled different NPCs off of different generals or other military figures, or have like set things up. So in this case, it's like this massive undead army is besieging a human dwarf city, and they're about to breach the walls, and they've got all the earthworks and the like, and it's the players leading a relief army that come to their rescue. But if I recall, it was a bit of a draw. The outcome was not Vienna. The outcome was the relief army escaping into the city as a bunch of light cavalry archers hunted down some of the ones that were fleeing. But it's still fun. Like you guys, it was weird. It was a draw, right? Like some battles are like that, right? There a lot of battles. It's just sort of like the 2 sides fought for 6 hours and then they went home. And like nothing changed, or
we punched the clock that day.
Yeah, there are some. Not every battle is decisive, and so if I recall, it was you bloodied their nose enough that they needed to the enemy needed to retreat, but they did so in good order, and the allies were not in a position to pursue, and so the war continued, but we never played We never picked it back that game. I think it was the last time we played was actually that battle. Otherwise, I usually use something from those historical battles as like a set piece or something like that. One of the ones I really like is the Siege of Malta in the mid 1500s, where the Turks they're kicking the Hospitaller Knights out off of their islands, like east, pushing them west. Like get out of Cyprus, get out of the Aegean Sea, and so they push them to Malta. And the fortresses on Malta are like super small, right? It's not that big of an island. And then this massive Ottoman fleet shows up with all of these troops, and it's just like the Hospitallers and some of their, just not that many people, not that many. It's just like brutal and violent, and it's like you start reading about things that happened in siege warfare that you don't, they don't really teach you about when they teach you about. They spend the 5 minutes talking about medieval times and in history. It's like they'll soak ropes in pitch, like huge coils of rope, like ship ropes, right? And then just throw them over the side of a castle, set them on fire and throw them over the side. So it's like this giant coiling rope that's been soaked in flammable materials that falls down on you. And so it's heavy, right? You're trying to climb up a ladder or fight your way through a breach with, like there's a push of a pike as that would often happen in these breaches. And then somebody dumps a flaming rope over you. Anyway, it's a fun one to just read and sort of catch glimpses of. I could talk about it forever, so I won't.
So is Malta basically like their Alamo?
Yeah, it's sort of like their Alamo. It's another one of those where my recollection of the aftermath of it is fuzzy, but it's like they managed to kind of like hold out long enough, if I recall. But it's one of those things where most of the 1500s, all of Europe is like terrified that the Ottomans are going to march through Italy or the Balkans, and every time they try, their pushback. The largest galley battle that ever took place happened during this time. The Battle of Lepanto is really fun. If you just want to like look at like say what medieval and early modern naval warfare was like before ship of the line, like the big cannoned, galleon type ships, that's fun to look at. Really cool. So yeah, there you go. Give them a highly mobile force like Monmouth. I take horse archers if I have a PC. I like having horse archers. Anyway, see some homemade archetypes from you guys. I've got some. I just don't at the moment. It's a question of whether to put them in a bigger book or to release them individually. And at one point, there was a channel on the Discord back when I still used Discord. That I would post some things like that in, and I might just get in the habit of doing that again, just if anything, for y'all's feedback on them. But yeah,
could do some play testing.
Really easier examples. Yeah, there are easier examples. Alamo's a fun one. I'm trying to think of some other battles that are fun. I don't know.
Pulling a Thermopylae.
Yeah, you just want to do that, right? Like, and then you're the force that has to sneak behind the enemy lines, or marathon even, right? Like marathon's a fun attack the enemy where they're still sort of disembarking. Potion remaining. Let's see what else we got. I'm way up on the chat. I'm not.
I mean, pretty much now we have answered all of the questions that are in the chat right now.
Yeah, cool.
So.
Awesome. Yeah, and that like I just sort of like touch again on the D&D Beyond stuff. I think the first time we were on there, that's maybe their highest rated show on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it hit 14 to 15,000, I believe, the first time we were on.
It's pretty cool. And
they said that their average viewership was what, like 3 to 4 or 2 to 4 or something like that.
Oh yeah. And
so that was pretty special.
Yeah.
Monk says hi, by the way.
Hey, Monk.
He was feeling very neglected, so I had to, as long as I pet him, be quiet. And this is my life.
Yeah, there you go.
He really wants to get on my desk, but I've been trying to break him of that because he was abusing that power.
Yeah.
I come home and there's shit everywhere all over my room because it's like you got on my desk just during the day and just kicked all my stuff off.
Just kicked all your stuff off. I'm trying to think of some other. If you're kind of curious about some fun military NPCs or just like wars to look at. The Italian Wars of Belisarius and Narses are really fun. These are the wars that happened the century after Rome just gives up on the western half of its empire and tells all the Franks and Lombards and Goths and whatever, like, you can have it, collect taxes, do the thing. So, they're already comprise all of the army, and that kind of thing. And so it's one of those things where the death rattle of the western half of the empire lasts for a long time, and there's a lot of like, are the barbarians in Rome, because there's still, say, the Bishop of Rome's there, the Senate's there, there's still the apparatus of the empire. It's just a Frank or whoever rules in the name of the emperor. And so it's like there's a kerfuffle, and the Byzantine, or in this case, Justinian, is like, we're going to send some people over there. And it's the war that just like ruins Italy. Like, if you ever wondered how Italy goes from being the center of this advanced empire that has like levels of industrialization that we wouldn't see again to like the 1800s in some places, to a kind of bumpkin backwater on the world stage, it's this war that does. It lasts about 40 years. It results in plague, famine, and it's just one of those where it's like, we have to lay siege to this city. We're just going to destroy all the aqueducts. We have to take this town or fort. We're going to like just tear everything down. And they just, it's kind of it's also sort of pointless in that there's a lot of fighting and not a lot of results. And so those sorts of calamities and tragedies are good fodder for RPGs, because somebody has to come in and fix shit.
Unmake civilization.
Right. Yeah.
The ultimate G.I. Joe versus Cobra Commander. Like, nobody. No, I'm sure there are plenty of people that died. Just all the stuff got destroyed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's massive. Yeah. And so it's just kind of this. It's, when you think about it from a historical perspective, it's sort of like, I don't know. Maybe not everybody does, but it is Justinian wasn't that great. And it was like I think I used to get like upset about the Library of Alexandria, right? I used to get like physically upset about it, especially when I was getting my undergrad degree. And it's the same with like these things. You're sort of like, look at this. You look at this event, and you go like, you people are so short-sighted. But at the same time, they're living in their world and they're dealing with their priorities and everything. The ones where it's like, this famous thing was destroyed during one of the 2 world wars because they decided to put munitions in it, are usually one of the ones where I get mad. Or what they did to Palmyra recently is another one of those where I just try not to think about it because it sucks.
I understand. So, Michael, I have a question here. I mentioned publishing earlier. Are there any concrete plans for that? Don't Discord as much. Concrete plans for publishing. Jim, is there concrete plans for publishing? Yeah, I mean, yes, there are.
Yeah, like I said, we up until about late April, we were on track to have our first thing getting published by the end of the year, and that got put on indefinite hiatus. And so, because of D&D Beyond and because of just life shit, we don't have a big update for you after that. But yeah, the plans are to have something. It's as ever. It's largely a matter of organization and time more than imagination or want.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my goal would be to take things that we use in our campaigns and generalize them to the point that we could present alternate either like rules hacks, subclasses, things to use, or like narrative stuff, like elements. Like this NPC, they are a complete NPC, and they're statted up to be system agnostic, but you can, you need a Thieves Guild leader that's evocative and memorable or whatever, then here they are. Or do you need a crazy priest that isn't the same one that you had last week or something like that? That's sort of my pie in the sky kind of what I'd like to be able to offer.
Yeah, most definitely. And yeah, I would like to also try to get into doing some more smaller stuff, just to breadcrumb a little bit just to give the people a little of what they want.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So, but we'll we're that's in the forefront of our thoughts. So don't worry about that. Question: it's easy to make the comparison of D&Ds.
You got to redo.
Oh, redo. I actually hadn't scrolled down, so I literally like had that. I'm like, all right, scroll down. Here we are. It's easy to compare D&D PCs to Spec Ops teams that get dropped into hostile areas to solve a problem. How would you go whole hog on that idea? Whole hog on that idea? Pick a particular type of monster in the monster manual, whether it's an aberration or dragon or whatever, and form a group that specifically polices or regulates said, whether it's aberrations, dragons, elementals out of control, whatever it is, undead. And like, that's what it is. You work for this group because you live in an area where X is very active, and you're the team specifically put together and funded by the lords of whatever and the mages academy of blah, 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 and all resources. I mean, this is your, like, think of any anime or whatever and just port it to D&D, whether you are Nerv and Evangelion and, you know, the PCs are the Avas and you deploy them. I mean, and treat it as such where, I mean, it's going to be a whole different kind of game. You don't have to worry about resource allocation really at that point. It's just about surviving the mission. So I like that kind of play because to me, it gets everyone to just blow their wad, just every power. Like you go on a mission and you're just going whole hog. You're just selling out every time. And even if you die, you might still be okay because if the rescue teams can get in time, because that would be a thing. You'd have backing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's just like, you know, just think of it that way.
You could easily go like if we're talking whole hog, then why one team, right? There's the recon team, which consists of a bunch of rogues and warlocks and shit like that are, you know, druids, shadow monks that are good at getting into places and getting out undetected. And then there's like the heavy hitters where you bring in, you know, like your big spell casting, your big blasters, a couple of tanks, maybe some, you know, range support. And then you clearly have to have the extraction team. You got your teleporters, people who can throw up defensive barriers, can kind of, you know, maybe some healing. You know, I can see that I can see these things being like in a world, say like Eberron or Ravnica, or one of these that has like you know, a state, right, an apparatus that can support a highly specialized and that has needs for that kind of thing, right? Like, you know, like it's difficult to say like I'm the spec ops team for the, you know, the Baron in his wooden castle. You know, like that kind of low fantasy sort of game to me is less conducive to it than say like a high fantasy urban or one in which
the Lords of Waterdeep have a fucking spec op.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not a tech level thing, right? Like the Romans had scouts that were exploratores that would go, like say, across the Rhine and would live amongst the German tribes for years at a time, just because they're like, we need to know what's going on in Germania, you know, or across the Danube or something like that. So it's not necessarily like a tech level thing; it's like a sophistication of the organizations in your world.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, if they can put together those kinds of things, then there's like a whole espionage game in D&D. If I was going to run a game like this, for me, the spec ops would be the field teams of the wizards colleges, right? Like the wizards colleges, those apprentice wizards are too fucking valuable to be sent out into the field to whatever but now, did you fail out? Were you a sorcerer? You know, yeah, then we'll send you out there. We'll strap some magic items to you and whatever. But like, where else do you think they're getting all these pearls, right? Like, you know, or where else do you think they get the kind of magic materials that they need, or that they find, you know, ancient artifacts, things like that? You know, it could be that the spec ops team is less like SEAL Team 6 and more just like a team of Indiana Joneses, that they work for some sort of academic organization, and they're the, you know, the acquisitions team or the procurement, something like that. I definitely look into Ac Inc. though. Apparently, I haven't looked at it yet as a book, but apparently it's got a lot of cool stuff for running organizations and the like it. So yeah, that's how I would go whole log on it. Tons of stuff, non-detection rings. You know,
oh yeah,
just keep people from scrying on them, all that kind of stuff. So yes, yeah.
Excuse me. Booker Prime, I've got a question here. What is objectively the best snack for a marathon tabletop role-playing game session? I mean, I know we have our favorites.
Sure.
Battle carrots are, to me, those are a great long-term snack just because it's any kind of fruit or vegetable you can pretty much snack on at a perfect rate where you'll never really fill up on it.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure. Yeah. I see that.
there are others, though.
I prefer high protein snacks for marathon sessions. So nuts or jerky. Like I'm a huge fan. I love beef jerky. Anyway,
A nice trash snack with.
Yeah. It's not going to get your hands too messy. Either there's a little oil, but that's fine. I would say those are the two things, to keep you going. And it's also like something that you can just have out and snack on, and you can have out for a long time without it needing to be like re-refrigerated or heat up again, or something like that, or worry about spoiling or something. Like, you can just sort of have it out. And so, that's what I think. A couple of crackers, maybe some bread, just some bread. You just eat it. So.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking marathon, you're probably going to have a meal in there somewhere.
Pizza's probably not a bad idea.
A nice sandwich spread would be nice, because then people could, especially if you do like the mini sandwich thing, they can have just the meat if they want it. But damn it, now I want a small sandwich.
Yeah.
I'm all hungry now.
All right, we're going to go about in like 10 or 15 more minutes, guys. So if you have any last minute questions, we'll get to them. Otherwise, we'll just bullshit chat. We see Crumpler.
Yeah.
Say question: What would a WebDM themed deck or a Magic the Gathering deck contain? Ooh, all right.
I mean, a whole line of like either pundits, punishers. I mean, there'd be a whole line of just like verbal attack that are different kinds of puns.
Yeah. I can see that. I think like to me, when I'm thinking about the theme of the topics that we cover the most, I think we're a blue-green deck, right? We do a lot of monster shows, which sort of it would be the green, and then a lot of like cerebral, head in the clouds kind of either imagination, brainstorming kind of things, or like advice, how to do this, how to get the most out of this, or what is it that you should keep an eye out for if you're playing this kind of game or something. So to me, those say like green and blue, blue for the mind and sort of that kind of thing, and green for the creatures.
Yeah,
I think it's a monster summoning deck though, for the most part. I think like the blue stuff is like confusions. Maybe there's some like enchantment type effects that you can put on other monsters, like you're saying puns, just like
I was gonna say that could be a version of verbal counterspell. A turn of phrase is how you turn people's spells against them. So it's how you could work those in there if you're doing specific like WebDM themed cards. And I would imagine it probably would also have a lot of custom cards that we made ourselves that we'd have to get approval from the tournament judge to use the first. You could have like a defensive wall called like lore dump, where it's just a pile of knowledge that blocks. Lore dump, or it's like that's the one that lets you mill through your deck. Draw 4 cards, put 2 in your hand, 2 in your graveyard, kind of thing. That's do that. Summon a bunch of unique creatures with the deck and have a bunch of custom special abilities. Excuse me. Oh, no worries, man. But, oh my God. Well, I mean, I can BS for another few minutes. It doesn't matter to me. I've already finished Stranger Things. So,
I haven't started any of the new season yet.
Oh, season 3, man. Let me tell you, it's fun. It's solid. I didn't think that they could scoop in any more nostalgia that they haven't already used, but I'll be damned if they didn't say, hey, we're going to do some zombies and some Red Dawn and some Terminator and just fucking say, fuck it. Yeah. And that's broad strokes. But where do they go from here? It's like this must be where they're like go to the planes hop. They must be high level now, so they gotta have some high level threats. Yeah, Yeah, it's just what I like about it is it's a different kind of threat. There's not as much going to the upside down per se.
Mhm.
It's more of just like an in-world threat, but also just the Jim, the threat of puberty. That
Well,
is
certainly, yeah, that'll get you.
the flowering of relationships, Jim, and the change on the landscape of friendship is pretty much
Pretty much how they do it.
the antagonist of this season.
I mean that'll happen, that'll happen. I just am like I can't. We had a free night last night, and I was like, it was like, okay, we could watch some Stranger Things, or there's a, I don't know what you call it. I was like, or do something else, just do anything else. And I was just like, do I want to sit and watch a show? And like almost every time, except for a few weeks ago where I got to bug up my ass to watch like 3 movies in a row. I just am like, no, I'd rather do something else. Or like I'll have something on in the back, like if I'm working at my laptop and not like work, like I'll have a movie on or something in the background. But a lot of times I just have music or something. It's usually something that's inspirational to, if I'm working on a campaign, usually something that's inspirational to that.
Yeah. I've been really trying to stay focused in my my inspirations for the Breath of the Fall campaign. So
yeah,
I've been really hitting those pretty good, and so it's been fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun. Just getting all that ready. So
in terms of that, what are you watching then for your inspirations? Other than
working the Abyss back into the rotation as a writing movie, where I'll just throw that on because that's a big part of it. But also, like 2001, Aliens, Neon Genesis was a big part of it, just for the whole
sure,
government using allocations of resources and what that really means and things like that. Just the whole like political intrigue aspect of that is what I really was siphoning from that. And so now I've gone back to Rick and Morty as the kind of the follow up to, because I've been churning up all these ideas and now I need something that I can write through. And that's what I've done today. Is for like 2 hours today I was watching Rick and Morty, typing and just letting it all tumble out of my head. And so that's kind of my process is I get a nice influence pool of movies, shows, music, and stuff like that, and really grab all the ideas I can, let them float around and percolate, and then you got to find that one thing that you've seen so much that you can just be inspired by, but right through and has a nice pulse to it and a nice
right. Yeah, you don't feel like you got to watch every second of it. Mostly, exactly.
But to me, that's the most important part, because if you pick something you haven't seen enough, then you're going to end up watching it instead of like getting your ideas down on paper, and it totally ruins the whole process. And I've done that many times. But
I tried doing that with Annihilation, and I didn't finish the movie. Like I got to the point where they're about to go past the veil, and I was like, I forgot to do this thing, and I turned off the movie. I was like, I'll come back to it, and that was 2 weeks ago. And I have not, but I did manage to get in a full viewing of Dune before that, which I'm proud of because it's taken me 38 years to see. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It was really fun.
Dune is awesome. For its flaws, what I love about it is especially if you've read the book, the movie as is like a very bare bones Cliff Notes.
So you could tell that they're skipping whole chapters in like a 20-second scene.
Yeah,
especially once they're exiled and out in the desert and they meet the Fremen. It's pretty clear that they're racing through books just to kind of get everything in, and then it just ends. It's just like they're all standing there, and Atreides is basically like, "I am God. I'm going to remake the social order of the galaxy." Credits roll. I loved it. I swear, I just was like, "Thank you." I was like, "What a ballsy move!"
It's a big mic drop. That's what it is. The big old mic drop. But yeah, I mean, they do kind of like really skim past. Like they show you all the underwater pools that they have in reserve. Don't really explain them until the very end, and you're like, "Oh, he's God. He made it right." And it's like, "Well, yeah, but it's more of a signal that went off that allowed them to." Redistribute that water. He's not like physically like making it rain.
Sure.
His symbol of taking over the government from the. Anyway, it's whatever.
Yeah, it's whatever.
But the way that they portray it though does give it that more like that deity level. Like everyone saw him just win the day and look up, and then the rain fell.
And then the rain fell. Yeah. Or I think probably my favorite part is when the emperor is just genocide, full and total genocide. You're like, all right, that's a good villain. What a great villain, because he's not like mean or just vindictive. It's just like it's clearly you have no value on human life. You place no value.
Well,
and why would you?
40K? It's very 40K.
It certainly is, right? I mean, you can see the inspirations for it, and of course I always knew that Dune was an inspiration for 40K in some ways, but it's one of those things where it's like in the same way with D&D, when I went back to D&D's inspirations, Conan and Grey Mouse, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouse or Dying Earth series, I was like, holy shit, is this so much more cooler than the thing that's been milled and churned over so many times that all the juice has been pulped out of it that we get presented with, on a regular basis. And so it's one of those things we're watching Dune. I was like, holy crap, this is fun. In fact, there's just a plug in their hearts.
Oh, you mean for their slaves?
Yes.
It's terrible.
The whole is like, it's one of those things where I can, like, it's a rare convergence of loving the movie and needing to know more about the world. You know what I mean? In that sense, it reminds me a lot of like Fifth Element or something, where I was like, I love this movie, and I need to know how we got here. I want, the impulse that if you were to do it, I think would make a terrible game, but it'd make a fun read for, just a sci-fi fan or something. Have y'all seen the YouTube series of Stardust? I thought you were watching something like that.
No. I was watching the series, Richard Boylan series, Hell's Reach, the animated kind of audio book telling of Hell's Reach, and it's completed. I didn't know if I wanted to go with completed or concluded there.
Oh, sure.
But anyway, you should check that out. I have seen clips of Astartes. I have not seen the whole thing though. But I do love all those 40K like Space Marine series.
Yeah. All right, I'm looking at it right now. Let's see. This looks cool. This is my problem with 40K shit. Is like when I was super into 40K, there was like Games Workshop was like, "Fuck you, we're not gonna let anybody make video games based on our shit. Don't even try to put something up on YouTube." Like it just was this. Like I'm glad it's not the case anymore, but I also am. When I look at it, I sort of feel like the same way I did about like super cool action figures. Where I was like, this is really cool. I'm glad this exists, but like I don't know that I can do this anymore. Other things. Very short, very good. Fan made. Well, I like fan made. They're usually pretty awesome if they have the resource for it. Yeah. But I'll check that out because this looks pretty cool. Now that I'm looking at it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because I know that Richard Boylan got tapped to do a 40K show.
Yeah. That was always my thing. Was like, why don't you guys like? Well, I know what the answer was in the '90s, and I'm glad.
Yeah. Hopefully that this will come out. There was a clip. I forgot what it was called.
Yeah.
But it was that one I shared it with you, where it's just the Space Marine that comes to the aid of the guard. And the Xenos just are coming right out of the shadows, and it's just kind of badass for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But that was just like a test vid for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. I think we're about ready. That was really cool. Thank you for the rec for Astartes, as well as suggestions. I know that Booker Prime had something earlier, not a question. I think that speak for everyone. I say it's Compendium of Magic Places and Points of Entry would be a great first offering for publishing venture. I mean, I'm thinking of something like along the lines of say like Sly Flourish's Fantastic Locations,